Hi, everyone. It's Jake from the Arete podcast, Arete Media, and I'm here to introduce you to the slightly edited version of the Arete podcast, episode 23. If you follow the channel, then you know that when we originally uploaded this episode, YouTube flagged it for medical misinformation. I was pretty sure which part they might have had a problem with, which really doesn't make sense because our guest Nat pre-qualified by saying that she did not create this web. This web had been created by nurses uh, back in 1994, and they have a medical and a holistic side, all that. But YouTube had a problem with it, so I identified that part, and you'll see where I do it. As most things, I turn it into a bit of a joke. But I do want to let you know that if you want to see that part, it is still available on the full unedited version that's has always been available on Spotify. There is a link in the description, and it is at the same time. So if you pay attention to what time that edit starts, you can theoretically skip ahead. And on Spotify, it is a video version, so you can see what Nat is talking about. And I apologize for it taking a little bit, longer than it should have, but I had to wait for the strike to get off my channel, so I couldn't risk uploading another episode with the same thing if there was already a strike. Fortunately, I got it right the first time, but here is the vast majority of the conversation that we had on Arete Podcast episode 23. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy the conversation.
This podcast is brought to you by the Goosebumps Crew Podcast and by Stevie Wicks.
Okay, welcome everybody to this episode of the Arete podcast. Hopefully, you're looking forward to a good Christmas coming up, but we've got a very special episode today. I'm joined by Natally Shahfi, who is a holistic practitioner and coach, as well as you've got a spiritual side to what you do as well. And I'm not even going to try to guess how to describe that. I'm going to let you do that for me. Do you prefer Natally or Nat?
Um, I I like Natally. I just used to go by Nat when I first started my accounts because I know that when you do have a unique name, it does get butchered. And if it were to grow and grow and grow, I was like, one day I might be like where everybody calls Rihanna Rihanna, but her actual name is Rihanna. So one of those, but
Valid,
but I
valid.
do I am trying to go more with Natally because it is unique and it does embody me and who I am. So I am trying to push that more.
Fair enough. Well, because I know you as Nat, because when I came across you on TikTok, that's what I was going to say. Natali is another person that I've connected with through TikTok. So in many ways, TikTok is great, and also the bane of human existence at the same time.
Correct. Yes, I totally agree.
But as a content creator, we've chatted about this before. We know
We do.
it is
Not
the wealth
fun.
of human knowledge and stupidity all in one
Valid.
convenient
Yeah,
location.
that's
That
true.
being said, though, there's a lot of great stuff there. Like Natali, who I connected with, and I was like, I gotta have you on my podcast because what you're talking about is not only super relevant right now, but it's stuff that makes some people uncomfortable, but it's stuff that everyone needs to hear, particularly now with all the things going on in food and healthcare and just all that mental health, all of that came across your live. And in fact, we're going to talk a little bit later about that wonderful little chart behind you because that's what caught my eye initially. But my first question for you would be, how did this whole journey start for you? The whole health, wellness, and spirituality.
Yeah, it's funny because I recently went on a retreat to Mexico with bioculture retreats and met up with a bunch of other holistic wellness influencers. And this question came up, and I actually had to really think about it because most of them had stories of, hey, I had all these chronic issues and I used to be a vegan and now I eat raw meat and, you know, I was on my deathbed and now I'm like doing all this stuff and doing great. But mine is very different when I thought about it. So, in terms of all of the health and holistic side of things, basically, when I was 16 years old, I had a mentor who was also not only, she was actually my mentor in my internship for marketing, but then became so much more than that. She became more of a life mentor, an older sister, and absolutely everything. And, to this day, I thank her and I love her so much for it. She was the first introduction into my life that changed my perspective in so many ways so young, but I didn't fully realize it until I really thought about that question. She had no vaccines. Anytime I was sick, she would pull out an oil and she kind of exposed me to it. I liked it. And then I dug deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And also, just in general, being foreign, already I did grow up with a lot of more of those natural remedies. I had this thought maybe that because I am a first generation born American here, that maybe not all of those different chronic issues to an extent have caught up with my, generational ancestral history yet. And I do feel like there is some truth to that. So that's where that was. And then you look into holistic, holistic, holistic. Now, what does holistic actually mean? Holistic health is the embodiment of caring to the mind, body, and spirit in a more natural way, in more of the way that it should be, the way that it was. Everything else was new. All we ever knew was holistic. All we ever knew was, you know, hey, oh, your tummy hurts, you got some cramps, let's throw some castor oil on that. I mean, my family is from Iraq and all they ever did was holistic remedies and it wasn't a thing or a coined term like nowadays, oh, you're a holistic girly, and it's funny to me, like it's just natural, it's all natural stuff. And that's where that stemmed. And then down the spiritual path, I genuinely feel like it was always ingrained within me when I look back at it now, since I am Neo-Aramaic, which is a modern day Chaldean. And if you look into my ancestry and the root and the ancient Mesopotamian roots, that society all was very, very spiritual, very magical. Everyone was very in tune with their soul. And, we do have Mesopotamian goddesses from the past. And Western astrology originated in Mesopotamia. A lot of people don't realize there is a huge difference between Western astrology and Vedic astrology. So
If not to cut you off, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe the oldest written poem that we have was actually from, obviously not modern day Iraqi, but a now I'm trying to remember what is modern day Iraq. I believe it was a princess from, I forget what dynasty that would have been, but if I'm not mistaken, the like I said, the oldest written down poem we have in our knowledge was from that area. So you're not, obviously not wrong. You know what you're talking about, but there's such a rich history of culture there. And then we still, like, we know about the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. We know what those places looked like. We know, I mean, the Epic of Gilgamesh.
that's what it
That
is. That's what she
yeah.
wrote. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when you really think about it. And that's why I also do believe I find it so beautiful that I'm thankful that I was brought into this world in the, ethnicity that I am. And I see such huge purpose there now. And mind you, like I grew up super hardcore Catholic. So to sit here and take that and then really unlearn everything I've learned, relearn it all, and, you know, do a lot of things that maybe the church didn't really agree with. It was huge for me, especially being foreign and being in a predominantly actually Chaldean area as well. But at the end of the day, I know within myself that I have such a strong relationship with God. I just don't have a strong relationship with religion. And I truly believe there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, if you are strong with the Creator, that's it. That's all you need, you know? At the end of the day, religion was stemmed off into so many different pathways and ways. So we really don't know what's what, right? We just know we have a creator. We know Jesus was a man, a human, and all that. So I just really dug deep. And what got me deep, deep into the spirituality was starting my healing and trauma healing journey and childhood, inner childhood healing, and all that crap. I mean, spirituality was just the gateway there because I did so much shadow work and the trauma healing and going through why I am the way I am today and breaking generational curses and trying to navigate this American world as a first generation born American woman. So that's really how that started. I guess that's the shortest I could go with that one.
And the rest, as they say, is history. I do want to go back. We'll circle back to it, but I want to touch more on the holistic and the health. Like I said, what caught my eye was the chart that's behind you. Um, and I apologize. I can never remember what that's called, even though you've told me about 5 times. Can you tell everybody a little bit about what that is? Because it looks very complicated and complex.
It is very complex, but very beautiful. So it's called the Healing Web. So there's actually 2 pages to it. Many people have heard of the Healing Web and they've seen this page, but they have not seen the second page. So the Healing Web kind of lays out in the center all of the main core issues. I'll pull it out here so I'm not referencing incorrectly. So, and actually, I will note, you actually found me on my first live ever.
That was your first live ever?
Yes.
I would have never known. I would have assumed you had been doing this for years.
That's so funny. Yeah, you found me on my first live ever. I was like, okay, I can go live now. What am I gonna do? And I'm like, let me just put this chart in front of me and see who comes on.
TikTok is officially scary because what's funny, and this is something you don't know, is I was actually racking my brain. I was like, oh, I've got to line up some guests that I don't already know because I've got a pool of people that I can always have on and have a good conversation, but I really want to expand for, the viewers' benefit. I want to reach out to people that I don't already know. And I was actually racking my brain scrolling TikTok because those two things happen a lot
Uh-huh.
simultaneously. Came
Uh-huh.
across that live and instantly I was like, this is so interesting. And
Wow. It was
as a
fate.
shame, well, it was the algorithm. But as a shameless skeptic and probably to a fault, I was intrigued by what you were saying, but my brain cannot help but be like, okay, where I'm taking in this information and I never judge any bit of information at face value, but at the same time, I don't just swallow what I'm given. I'm always skeptical, but you did such a fantastic job of explaining what you were talking about that I was like, okay, she clearly knows what she's talking about, and I do not know any of this, so I'm glued. This is new information for me, and I loved it. But
I
yeah, no,
love that.
I cannot believe that was your first live. That is wild
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, that was my first live. I mean, naturally just enjoy speaking and using my words and being powerful with them. So I'm glad it didn't feel like my first live.
I would not have guessed.
So funny. So, um, I want to read off um, the center is where everything starts, and that's the index. So on the index, we have heart disease, hypertension, cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, cold and flu, respiratory infections, diabetes type 1 and 2, allergies, asthma, food, eczema, psoriasis, digestion, arthritis, thyroid issues, candida, depression, anxiety, addiction, ADHD, autism, gender dysphoria, AIDS, Lyme disease, physical injury, obesity, cosmetic, genetic disorders, radiation, bones, dental, vision, pregnancy, and death. So, when we look at this chart then of the healing web, which they say a guide to holistic and allopathic healthcare. That's why I love this web because it lays everything down like a blueprint of how everything would be treated allopathically, Western or holistically. So if you go to the right side, we have all of the ways that all of the different remedies that you would go to for one of those issues on that index holistically. And then on the left side, we have allopathically. And one thing I love about this, just like how you were saying, you will look at things, but you're also very questionable with things, right? So the reason why I love this chart so much is because if you go on the holistic side in the bottom right corner here, they have a whole circle that says questionable. And then
Mm.
they have different things in here that they would consider questionable on the holistic side. So we've got voodoo, we've got breatharianism, which is a very questionable concept. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I have not.
So breatharian is this concept that we actually never needed food. We just needed breath. And that people used to sustain off of just breathing and breathing in certain ways. And there's some, I'd have to look it up, but there's some doctor who wrote like, or person that wrote books on this. But yeah, that concept is something else. And it's the concept that we went from breath to then going down as men and then eating fruits and then going even more down as men by eating animals.
Oh, okay, okay. That was my question was going to be, it's like, surely they're not, surely this person is not asserting that current human beings can subsist on breath alone because,
No.
okay, okay. I was going to say, because I have some people, well, realistically all across the world that can demonstrably prove that false. But okay, I can, it's sort of like a devolution theory, right? Where we started out,
Yeah.
which actually ties in somewhat, I mean, biblically, you can it's sort of implied. I don't think it's ever outright stated in Genesis. Of course, I've never read the original Hebrew because I can't read Hebrew. Um, but I don't believe it ever says that man needed food in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that like it was there if one wanted to partake. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, that's the idea there. I definitely, again, would not do that today. Do not do
I
that.
would I would advise against it. Yes.
Yes.
That's not gonna work out. Although fasting has been proven to be when controlled and done properly,
Yeah.
it's been proven to be quite beneficial actually, which shocked me because I my co-host on another podcast, Eric,
Yeah.
he's big into fasting. He was telling me it
Yeah.
was like, dude, this is great. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not buying it. I don't see how not eating can make you feel better and more energized. And then I tried it and I was like, well, all right.
Yeah, it definitely does do something. And I'm doing a whole body cleanse for people, and I want 20 people a month. And during the actual cleanse portion, there is a pretty huge fast where you're only eating fruit to create a very alkalized environment in the body, which really, toxins do not like, parasites do not like. So, yeah, little off the note there. So, yeah, with the questionable side there, then we go to the allopathic side, and then we have a circle of what this group of nurses who created this believe is beneficial on the allopathic side. So I that's why I love this chart so much because it takes no bias. It's just truly these nurses have gone and done research and put all of this together to see where are we taking remedies this way and where are we taking remedies this way. And then one thing I also love at the bottom here is they put suppressed remedies down, not talk about if you post them, they get suppressed. And then they have future remedies that they believe will one day come to fruition and be more talked about. And it's insane when you actually look at it because it has for example, I don't know if you ever watched The Flash. I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so one of the future remedies on here is tachyon healing chambers. And we always hear about tachyons in the Flash and those energetical particles. So, well, and also tachyons are real. Like that's not,
Yeah, yeah. No,
you
they
know.
yeah.
So it's just very, very unique and like quantum healing. I actually talk about that a lot on my Unleashed Spirituality page, healing at quantum levels. And I mean, even in future remedies, we have nanobots, and we know damn
I
well
don't know
that
how
that's,
futuristic. I was gonna say I don't know how futuristic that is today because
yeah,
nanotechnology is being used
yeah,
even today. It's nanotechnology is even in a cleaning product that I'm affiliated with. It's a waterless car wash system that uses
really.
nanotechnology. Yeah, and I won't go into it. It's long and
Wow.
boring, but it effectively cleans better than water, honestly, because it doesn't leave the residue behind. But nanotechnology is a key part of how that works.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unique. That's what I'm saying. I feel like the more of the future remedies is just like we know this stuff is there, but we'll
I
perfect it in the
had
future.
Yeah, I'd read an article some time ago about, I believe it was in the Netherlands, it was somewhere in Europe, and they were experimenting with the idea of nanobot white blood cell replacement for people with like HIV as a
Oh,
potential cure. So basically, they go in and replace, or anybody with an immunocompromised disorder, they go in and replace the organic white blood cells that have, died off with
yeah,
nanobots. And the thing is, you can always replace them too. You can guide them to a certain place if you ever needed to do like a transfer.
yeah,
They're nanobots, so you could guide them to a location in the arm. They draw out the blood with all of them in, and they can put them right back in. And I was like, this is fascinating. And this was a few years ago. So I'd wager to say that we might be seeing that before too long.
for sure. And from my knowledge, this chart was created and released by those nurses in 1994. That's when the healing web was first introduced. So definitely, I mean, we're seeing they're right.
Oh,
You know?
there's definitely progress because my stepfather was recently in the hospital. He's out now, but he had a blood clot in each lung, and they went in laparoscopically, and he was walking the next day. And not even that long ago, I had had a laparoscopic procedure, and even I had to lie still for 12 hours afterwards. Within 2 hours, he was allowed to move. He didn't feel like it because of the anesthesia, but he would have been allowed, permitted to get up and walk around after 2 hours. And I was just like, this is
Wow.
incredible.
Wow. That's yeah, I mean things are definitely moving along for sure. It's pretty crazy. One of my favorite things to address on here is definitely like the cancer stuff because that's huge.
That's the
And
big one.
that's the big one and it's on here. So also all of these little lines stemming off leads you to all the remedies. And then anytime they cross over with these little pegs, that means that there's an association. So, mm, is there one that you would want me to like go through?
No, not in particular. Dealer's choice.
Okay, dealer's choice. Let's see. What's very, let's go controversial.
Let's get
Let's
a
go
rise out of
controversial.
everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say probably the most controversial ones on here would be the cancer, the gender dysphoria, and the anxiety, depression, mental health stuff,
Let's
and
go anxiety,
autism
depression, and mental health. I feel like that's where more people will connect on just on a balance of
for sure.
probabilities.
All right. So let's see. One of the most common things here. So we have depression as one, anxiety as one, and then depression as one. So let's just go through depression.
If we have to.
Yeah, let's go through depression on the holistic side. So it's definitely once you understand how to follow the chart, it's easy, but it definitely looks like a huge jumbled mess when you just look at it.
So it's just like the human mind.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I still can't believe how amazing they did with this. And then over to depression in terms of allopathically, it's way smaller, way, way, way smaller. Oh, you have depression? All right. Antidepressants, psychiatry, and SSRIs. Done.
I was just going to say SSRIs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all
Which
we
I
have
mean,
there.
and that's another thing that depression's one of those things which, hey, talking about hot takes, clinical depression is real. I was actually corrected when I was in college, very harshly by a professor that I respect and still to this day greatly respect. But he did concede that a lot of people who suffer from quote unquote depression are suffering from what's better characterized as situational depression, whereas a certain thing is making them feel depressed. But that's the easy kind. The clinical depression is when there is actually something going on inside their brain that is misfiring, or there's a chemical imbalance of some kind, and that's where it
Yes.
gets real. Because I, since that time, I've met people who actually suffer from legitimate clinical depression, and the thing of it is they feel so ashamed because they're like, I have no reason to be depressed, so they don't talk about it because they
Yeah.
feel like if they talk about it, they're just whining.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, because actually a very very good friend of mine, a few years back, he not quite to tears, but pretty close. And it literally had just said that. He said, I have no reason to be sad, but I am. And
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. And I feel so helpless.
Yeah. I mean,
And
and
I'm
here's
like,
the thing, for all you know, that's the parasites, heavy metals, toxins within the body, because he's literally telling you, I can't think of a reason. There's no good reason, right? So, and we have proven that those things really do affect our mood, really affect how we feel. And also, a lot of people, when they hear parasites, only think of intestinal, but parasites actually go from head to toe. Um,
mm-hmm.
and when it comes to the brain, I mean, that is a tough one. Within the brain parasites, it said that just this substance called chlorella and spirulina helps to get rid of those from the brain. I do caution people that when you do hear these things, that you do not just jump right in. There is a deep method to the madness. And that's why I even have all of the people I have set up to even do my full body cleanse. A lot of them were like, I really wanted to do it. It's been going viral, but it just is a little bit confusing to me because you could really do a lot of damage if you don't do it right.
You absolutely can. That's why anytime I see a supplement where it's like, oh, it doesn't matter, take what you want. It's like, what are you selling? Water? Like,
Right. Right, right. And no, it's not like that. And also everybody's bodies are different. And you should also a lot of these cleanses don't have a very strong preparatory period. Like I have people switching their diets for a couple weeks off of all processed things, refined sugars, seed oils, and taking tinctures to prepare their organs because you need that or you're going to get a sickness during the cleanse and then you're going to
oh
be
no,
mad at me.
you no, you absolutely will, because they're, I don't know, are you I don't, they may not have them where you live. Are you familiar with it's kind of a chain, but First Watch, the restaurant First
I do
Watch?
have First Watch. Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
okay. Have you ever had their kale tonic?
I have.
Oh my God. I was not warned the first time.
Yeah. You were
It's
probably
I
like, oh my God, this is so good for me. I'm gonna get this.
Oh, I love them. They taste amazing, but nobody warned me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if you want to know what we're talking about, just go to First Watch and order one. Experience it for yourself. You got
Yes.
about 15 minutes to get somewhere safe.
Yeah. At your discretion. We didn't whatever
I'm
happened.
not
It didn't
telling
happen.
you to do it. You can Google it. You can Google it. But I will
Yeah.
say they taste incredible.
Yeah.
I actually like to drink them now because boy, you feel good. Love them, absolutely
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah, I do love that I have First Watch because that's like the closest thing I can get over here to some good quality stuff. And they use sourdough. Most places don't use sourdough. Now, I know I can't control the grain, but balance, balance. First Watch is my balance. I love First Watch so, so much. But yeah, all of these things. And then I've actually had this issue even with my parents where I've like helped them with some things. And then my dad's like, why do I feel like crap? And I'm like, because you have toxins in you. That's why you feel like crap. Like, you're
It's this.
detoxing so many
It's
years of shit.
it's this. It's the same reason you feel like crap after leg day. Like,
Right,
you're
right.
building. You're building.
Right, right. So I just say, trust the process. You're gonna get there, you're gonna feel it, you're gonna feel great after. Like you said, once you've experienced all these things for yourself, now you're like, okay, there's truth to this. Okay.
But yes, there is a bit of cautionary tale there because speaking of holistic remedies and not thinking before you do them, and the sad thing is, I read not to do this and I did it anyway because I was being an idiot. So, well, what I did was I actually just I didn't pay attention to the dosage is all I did, but
Mm,
I learned the hard way. So I had read that a good remedy when you start feeling like you could be getting sick, if you're already sick, it's too late. But the minute you start feeling like you might be getting a cold or something, take zinc. I had read that and I can vouch for it. It definitely works. Don't take too much. My recommendation, because the ones I bought were 50 milligrams, which is like take one every 2 days and you won't get sick. But if you take one the next day, you'll get sick. Just point blank, you're going to get sick. It's
so
going
you
to
took a
happen.
double dose.
I didn't know it was a double dose, but yes, I did a double dose.
Yeah, yeah,
It did not take long. It was almost instant. And I was kind of surprised because I knew exactly what it was though, because I don't normally get nauseated like that. And I was like, oh, it was the zinc. And
yeah,
I had no choice in the matter after that realization. So just had to go with the flow.
yeah. I definitely feel you on that. One of the more, I would say, questionable things they've done, which I still agree with because it does work. I did a gallbladder and liver flush at home.
Ooh,
Um, yeah,
how was
and
that?
I posted my my I at while I was doing my cleanse, I posted every single day and how it went, but it was I will not lie, and I'm genuinely not exaggerating when I say this. I thought I was going to die. I mean that. I truly mean that. I was so scared out of my mind. But see, and that's the reason why when you're doing these cleanses, it's good to have access to someone you can talk to. Like when I'm doing my cleanse, like I'm making a community, like you can talk to me throughout the whole cleanse because what I was going through was scary and I was not going to go to the hospital because I hate the hospital so much. Clearly.
Well, I was gonna say something that I remembered hypochondriacs exist, but I was going to say, well, who likes the hospital? But then I remembered chondriacs.
Yeah. And I
So
know people live with us.
most people don't like the hospital. Some
Yes.
people really love it for some reason, but
Yes. And when I'm out of my mind like that, I don't like going to the hospital because I can't fully speak for myself, unless it's a true emergency. So basically, what happened is my mom was like, you're so young. Why do you think you have gallstones and all this stuff? I'm like, Mom, we all do. You might have more than me, but I'm sure I do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to clean my whole body out. So you actually ingest Epsom salt and it is torturous. Like you can tell that you're ingesting like chemicals. It just tastes like chemicals. But you need the Epsom salt to get everything flushed through. And then you take this mixture of grapefruit juice and olive oil. And then there's also a fasting period. There's a whole regimen there. But basically, what happened to me is I was not told that if my bowels weren't moving very efficiently, that I would get very ill.
Mm,
And my bowels were not moving very efficiently because while I was doing my cleanse, I had to do enemas every day, but also colonics. But I only scheduled one colonic because, I mean, it's pricey. I'm not rich. So I scheduled one colonic and it was after. But basically, what happened is I flushed everything and
mm,
then I'm sitting and mind you, go to the bathroom like 50 times. This is just like coming straight through you. It gets to about 9:30 at night and I'm laying in bed and I'm like, I'm scared to sleep. I was so scared to sleep
wow.
because I felt my body, it felt as if my body was shutting down. I was
Mm,
so afraid to shut my eyes. And I I'm like I'm scared to sleep right now. Normally, and mind you, I'm a night owl. I am terrible with that. I stay up very late. I don't know why my brain is just like a million miles an hour at night and I feel like I can get 5,000 things done. But I'm up late. So 9 o'clock for me when I would normally sleep at like 2, 3 o'clock was scary. And I actually did fall asleep. So that was my experience there. And truly, it was scary. But now I know that as long as my bowels are moving well, I'm going to be fine. But it's just because my bowels were not moving well that I did fall ill. And yes, I did release a shit ton of gallstones, even though I am younger. So we all do have them. And, this is also great for people who are told, oh, like you need to get your gallbladder removed. Like at the end of the day, you should do your best to not have any of your organs removed unless absolutely necessary, right?
Greetings, boys and girls. My name is Isaiah Vargas. For over 3 decades, R.L. Stein's Goosebumps has reigned as one of the best-selling book series in history, spawning a monster franchise that's lasted since 1992 and spawning a massive fan base. Folks who love to talk about this influential series, and that's where we come in. Join the Goosebumps crew, Nick Shaw, Bjorn Panelik, and myself every week as we dive into the world of Goosebumps and talk about everything from the books, TV shows, movies, video games, merchandise, and so much more. Many like-minded Goosebumps fans and a growing list of special guests join us, so if you want Goosebumps, get with the program. Tune in to the Goosebumps crew every week on YouTube and audio platforms. Become a Goosebumps crew member today. Listen with the lights on.
yeah, that goes into one. I think one of the first things we talked, which I think was in your live, something that I had said, and it's kind of my philosophy. And you're the wellness coach, so you can correct me if I'm off base here. But kind of my philosophy when it comes to health is holistic approaches are exceptional for maintenance and prevention of problems. And then modern medicine is where it steps in once either you haven't done the holistic preventions and there, because there is a point, I think you would agree, there is a point at which, in most cases, Western medicine does have to step in. That's just, to my mind, that's demonstrably true just because of the fact that there's a lot of stuff that people are no longer dying from
Oh,
because of
yeah.
modern medicine. This is kind of half and half. Because whenever somebody is trying to tell me that modern medicine is ineffective, I'm always like, antibiotics are kind of a big deal. It's really hard in a first world country to die from an infection compared to, you know, the late 1800s. It's kind of not a thing. Statistically, it's just a thing that really doesn't happen anymore. Now, the reason I say that's halfway is because at the end of the day, antibiotics are essentially fungus. That's how they were
Yeah.
discovered. I which I love the story of the discovery of antibiotics because it was an accident. And yet I mean it changed the world. That's
Yeah.
you cannot understate how big of a deal that was because
Yeah.
prior to antibiotics, medicine antibiotics, an infection would be real depending on what kind. It would be 50-50 or certain death. It was kind of it was not good. It was not good to have an infection of any kind.
I
And
feel
now
like, Yeah, now we're like floating. So I feel like every time something first came out, it was something so amazing and beautiful and such a great thing. And then someone comes in and puts greed in the picture and corrupts the whole thing. And that's one thing I don't like. So, yes, antibiotics, yes, but in modern day, the abuse of them has become
Hmm.
unreal, which I dislike very much. I am not telling anyone to do this. I'm just telling you what I've done and what's worked for me. So I have very potent oregano oil, and then I have capsules, very small, size 4. And anytime I feel as if I am getting ill, or I do have an infection, or I am ill, I just take those size 4. I put in 5, 6 drops of that potent oregano oil, and of course, only organic and only non GMO. And I use that. I take that twice a day for up to 10 days. And every time I have done that, I have used that as my alternative as opposed to taking antibiotics, just because I just feel so much better doing that. And if I ever got to the point of, hey, I do have an infection that I might die from, then okay, pump me with those. All right. Like,
But because you do that though, the clinical antibiotics will actually statistically are more likely to be effective for you.
exactly, because people are overusing them, and now people are like, oh, well, I can't even take that anymore because it doesn't work on me, right?
Well, the other thing that I've seen that's kind of encouraging though is because this was recommended, which it's been a few years now, but the last time I was prescribed antibiotics, they recommended an over-the-counter probiotic for me to take after my cycle of antibiotics because what people don't understand and need to is that when you take an antibiotic like amoxicillin or any of the the usual suspects, you're not just killing the bad bacteria, you're killing all the bacteria, and that can lead to some unfortunate things. Now, normally, before we had these super bugs that became antibiotic resistant, normally, and all the processed crap in our food, normally it wasn't a big deal because you would continue to eat and repopulate your gut biome, shortly thereafter, and you would be good to go. But now, because of all the garbage that we eat and because of they have to use stronger antibiotics sometimes now, they're starting to recommend a probiotic after the fact, which I thought that was pretty encouraging. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. There's
Right,
some
like
there's
for
some
once
hope here.
they
Yeah.
actually care about your gut microbiome. And that is, by the way, one thing I also do love about the oregano oil. It does not destroy my gut. It is literally targeting so much of the bad. It's not just sitting here destroying all of my good bacteria, which I love because, you're not going to sit here and get everyone always ends up getting diarrhea or tummy aches and things like that because your gut microbiome is being so destroyed. And it's funny too, because I found this from this little study a high school kid did and posted to YouTube. I don't know if you've ever seen it. He asked his teacher, he said, for my final project, I would like to do, I would like to do the effects of antibiotics, amoxicillin versus oregano oil in a petri dish on the same bacteria.
Hmm.
And he did. And he proved how much more effective the oregano oil was versus the amoxicillin. And I can definitely find it and send it to you. What's
Yes, I'd
insane
like
to
to see
me
that. Yeah.
is the video is so old, but the viewership is so low. Yet I've seen this video shared on my social media umpteen amount of times. Of course, my algorithm is different, but I mean, it's crazy to see how many people have not seen this video. And I mean, I also know some people probably like see it and be like, I'm not watching that, like
And mostly because of, well, no, I can't give him. Part of the reason is because somebody we're going to talk about later, that I've started to open my eyes a little bit more with stuff like that because the nice thing about holistic medicine is, generally speaking, you can try it with some guidance, and if it doesn't work for you, you're not really out much of anything, as opposed to,
trying
trying.
Western is gonna take you somewhere.
Yeah, potentially. But that being said, yeah, I was gonna say, so this might be an unfair question for you, but do you know how the oregano oil works on the bacteria? Does it like trap it? Does it attract it? Or is that something that you would need
Eliminates.
to, but
Eliminates.
how though? That's my curiosity.
Yeah. So there's this thing in oregano oil called carvacrol. That in it um, is what's more doing the work.
Hmm.
That's most of the extent that I know. The rest definitely don't quote me, but I just know it works. Oh, and also I've used it topically as well. I've actually my first cousin, she got a it starts with a P. Basically, it's like it looks like acne, but it's actually a bacterial issue going on. And then it looks like acne and it's these like bumps and they
Hmm.
can get really itchy. I had her take a band-aid and then put oregano oil on the band-aid and put it on. And she said that that was the quickest that has ever gone away. She said
Hmm.
normally she gets this antibiotic topical cream from her doctor and she puts that on and it takes about a month for it to go away. And she said it always comes back. So that's the other issue, it always comes back. And she said this was the first time that after a week she could take that band-aid off and she felt like she could show her face. And that was really, I love those experiences because when I'm sitting here helping my friends and family, I don't want to obviously look like the fool. So when it works out, that's always so amazing and beautiful. And because sometimes some things work for me that don't work for others as well. So
Yeah,
that's the other thing with it.
I think that's the other thing that that healthcare needs to, because the thing is, I think they know this, but there's this weird belief that for something to be considered healthcare, it has to be universal for everyone. And again, my friend and I are a really good example of this. My best friend is lactose intolerant, so he is very anti-dairy.
Hmm.
I am the opposite. I love milk. Milk is
Yeah.
great for
Yeah.
me. When I drink milk regularly, I feel great. It doesn't bother me. I mean, every human can only tolerate a certain amount of milk in a given time period, which, fun fact, if you don't drink alcohol like I do, but you still want to participate in drinking games, you can. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I actually don't drink as well. I don't drink. I the alternative I've had is like kava roots, taking
Mm-hmm.
kava root. I mean, I don't know, alcohol is poison anyways. Like I'm not I'm not hurting myself by not drinking it. I will
Yeah.
say though, I did go to for the first time a real true winery for the first time, and I got a huge education on what real wine is.
Yeah, I was gonna say because wine and mead are, because I don't drink any alcohol. I'm not one of those people
Yeah.
who's like, I don't drink alcohol except for wine. No, I don't drink alcohol. But that being said,
Yeah.
there are different kinds. There are
Yeah.
different types of alcohol. Like for those who don't know, mead is fermented honey as opposed to, a
Hmm.
fermented wheat or barley that
Hmm.
most of our liquors and beers are fermented grains. And then
Hmm.
wine, whatever kind of wine it is, typically is fermented fruit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And you can also
But
have fermented fruit with the mead side. It's just like
hmm
different
hmm
fruits, which is
yeah, yeah.
so cool. Like the blackberries, raspberries, and things like that.
But yeah, so my point being, and that's true for a lot because a lot of people don't know this, is the vast majority of the population of planet Earth actually, especially in Asia, I believe, they lose the enzyme just genetically. They lose the enzyme that lets you digest milk at a fairly young age, barring an oddity here or there. Babies are born with the enzyme that breaks down milk because they need it to survive. But most people actually, I believe the vast majority of people outside of Europe and those of European descent, because for some reason those people just hung on to the enzyme genetically.
I wonder why. I don't
It's a
know.
mystery.
I don't know if it's like this in your state. In my state, raw milk's illegal.
It's not illegal here, but it's a bit of a misnomer to get true raw milk.
No, it's illegal here to a pretty severe extent. I mean, we've had a very huge farm get raided and actually went very viral where they were, I don't know if you saw the video, like the guys came in and they were throwing out all of their stuff into the big dumpster, all of their cheeses, all of their milk. It was a Nourish cooperative. Huge,
Hmm.
huge, huge, huge farm there over here in Michigan that sends, I mean, all of the amazing stuff out and has it
I
available
don't,
for people.
yeah, it's not illegal in Indiana. Um, in fact, I think, but typically speaking, I think you have to get that direct. Like you have to get
Like
it from
from,
yeah, from the farm.
yeah,
There
yeah,
there are milks you can buy in the grocery store that are advertised as raw milk, but if you read it, it actually still says
for
um
pets.
yeah. No, 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 it
Yeah.
says pasteurized. It says raw milk, but if you read real close, it's still
Oh,
pasteurized.
oh, yeah, that makes me so mad. Like, because so if I have a lot of dairy, I get a lot of bumps on my shoulders and a lot of pimples on my shoulders, my skin. It's really frustrating because I do love dairy. I love dairy.
Yeah.
I usually don't have much of an issue with cheese, but I am getting really good cheese. And
I was gonna say that that can
definitely,
have something to do with the quality of cheese you're getting too.
yeah, and also definitely not secretly getting raw milk cheese at all. And
Of
but the
course
hardest
not.
thing, yeah, the hardest thing over here in Michigan though now, especially after that farm got raided here, is finding raw milk. Because
Mm,
at the end of the day, you don't just want raw milk. You want raw milk from grass-fed cows, cows that are very healthy, right?
hmm.
Obviously, at the end of the day, when people have these opinions on raw milk, I agree with you. If it's a just milk machine cow, I agree,
Yeah.
but I just can't. I've called so many different farms here, and I'm like, my next step is to just call and say I'm looking for it for my pet because I feel
Mm.
like if I'm calling, they're gonna say no because they're scared if I'm like the feds. I'm so serious. That's why every time I call, I'm like, you guys probably think I'm like an op, like trying to help a raw milk bust in Michigan. So yeah, I'm gonna call and say it's for my pet. It's just so funny to me. I do like Michigan though, because it's so balanced. Like we have the farms, we have the city, we have everything, but not the raw milk.
No, Michigan's beautiful. I remember I had a random I had a random trip up there a couple years ago, and I ended up by sheer fluke, ended up in a little town called Elk Rapids. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I'll put it to you this way: if you blindfolded someone and dropped them there at the beach, they'd wake up and swear they were in Clearwater, Florida,
Really?
because it looks like Florida. I mean, it's much colder than Florida, but
Yeah.
it looks like Florida. It's an incredible little town, but highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah. When you do get around more of our Great Lakes, I mean, you truly do feel like you're by the ocean. It's pretty crazy because the
Oh,
water is truly,
yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. Because if you northern Indiana, you can go to Lake Michigan. There's more than a few, beaches. And anytime I've ever said to somebody, yeah, we can go to the beach here, and they're like, it's not the same. And I'm like, if I kidnapped you and dropped you off there, your first thought would be that I took you to the ocean because you
right.
cannot tell. Once
Right.
you get in the water and you feel around a little bit, you can tell it's fresh water. But your initial reaction would be, oh, I'm in Florida.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I totally agree. Seeing how clear that water is, I mean, it's beautiful. I I live by so many man-made lakes and I used to swim in them as a kid, but I don't touch them at all anymore because it's black underneath. Like you can't see water at all. It's just black. It's crazy. It's like this whole giant layer of must and dust and I don't know. It's crazy because when I was a kid and I would swim in those lakes, they'd be fully clear and I'd go underwater with my goggles and I'm like,
Mm.
what have you done?
They've killed it.
For
Um,
sure.
but but on a happier note, another thing that you like to post is you post a lot of videos saying use this, not that, and those are also phenomenal. So you should subscribe to her Instagram and her TikTok, and you'll see those because they are actually quite helpful. What's your favorite example of use this, not that, if you had to pick one?
Uh, so funny. Like when you said that, my brain like went like my brain got 500 slides.
You just thumbing through the catalog.
Yeah, my brain got 500 slides of things. What's something so important? Most honestly, I would definitely say the beauty care products, skincare, hair care, all of that. That's like number one. So one of my favorite ones is definitely like the lotion that you're using, right? Because everything that we put on our skin is being absorbed and it's going to our bloodstream. So when it comes to what I put on my skin personally, I like to just use rosehip oil, beef tallow. That's my go-to. Other than that, nothing's really going on my skin. And as you can see, I have pretty good skin. um, and that's like number one for that. And in terms of hair care, I actually have not used a traditional shampoo and conditioner in probably 7 years. I use a Longsheng rice water bar. Actually, I would say this is probably my favorite one. I haven't even done a video on this. It's a shampoo bar and a conditioner bar. And I personally actually have curly hair, and you can't tell, but my hair is actually down to my bottom. My hair is very long. And the Longsheng rice water, it actually has proven to really help your hair continue to grow and be strong. And it has, I don't have any sense in it at all. I just get the native essence. And that's so important because so many people always complain that their hair is falling out or that their hair plateaus at a certain length. And you have to think that you're coating your hair and your follicles in these chemicals. You don't realize it. I've actually noticed this more of an issue recently. I had somebody ask for curly hair product alternatives, and I was doing research and looking for a curly hair gel, curly hair mousse, and things that actually work. Nearly all that I came across were being sold in other countries, and I couldn't even get them here. And I'm like, huh, there must be more to this hair than I even know. There must be more to that because to see that it was that difficult for me, I mean, what I personally use is I found this, believe it or not, a lot of my products are actually for kids. My toothpaste is actually for kids. It's by a more holistic company, but it's for kids. But I've been using that, and that's the closest thing that I have found, and it still has fragrance in it. So that's probably my top ones there is
Oh, I've got
all of
a.
that.
You'll appreciate this. I found a tooth, which I can't find it anymore, and I'm so mad. I used to import toothpaste from Japan
Are you
because I found.
serious?
Oh yeah, oh no, because I'm a big fan of, and the U.S. market's caught on to it, but not as well. I'm a big fan of using activated charcoal in toothpaste as opposed to fluoride because when I nerdy because I'm a language nerd, but it's called Sumigaki toothpaste, and I actually looked up because first I looked up the um, the characters because I know some Japanese writing, but not a lot, and then I'm like
Yeah.
Sumigaki, that's got to be a thing. Like this isn't random, and sure enough, it's a style of ink painting, black ink painting. So
Really?
I'm like that's awesome. Activated charcoal, and it's it is flavored, but I'm pretty sure it's probably a natural flavor because it was grape flavored in
Mm.
air quotes. But
Mm-hmm.
so I used it. So I was like, oh, black toothpaste. That's kind of weird. I'm gonna try this out. I noticed a color, and I have sensitive teeth. I noticed a color decrease in sensitivity, all around better feel, and that took me down a rabbit hole. Found out that what activated charcoal actually does when it's done correctly is it reverses the ionization of your enamel surface, so it actually repels staining as you use it more often.
Mm,
So not only do you clean your teeth, but you build up some resistance there too. And it was an amazing product, and I cannot find it anymore. So I'm still
wow.
looking. And I think it's because like your Colgates and your Crests have started
They caught
selling
on.
they started selling activated charcoal, but I've used their products and to me it's the same. It's the same. I use Hello brand now, which is not it's not quite as good as Sumigaki, but it's not quite as bad as the Crest variant of activated charcoal.
Are you using their activated charcoal toothpaste?
Yes, I am.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I literally there's only like one not great ingredient in there that can disrupt flora, but other than that, nothing terrible. I've been using Risewell mineral toothpaste. I really like mineral toothpaste. I was actually and also I actually switched from electric to just handheld because the fibers on your toothbrush being plastic put microplastics in your mouth. So usually get like boar bristles. It's,
Mm.
I can't win. It's like everywhere I turn, it's like you can't win.
Well, I saw there's actually a company that and the thing is that it caught my eye because I knew this. So not a lot of people think about this, but back in the early colonial period and around that time, people did brush their teeth, but what they would it was a combination of wood bristles and what they would call chew sticks, which were specific wood species that,
I think
you
it's
know,
chicory root.
I think it
The,
is. You're right.
the
You're right.
chicory root, yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's a company that makes wood handle and wood bristle toothbrushes. The problem is they're very expensive for a toothbrush. Like they're not god awful, but they're
Yeah.
expensive and they don't last very long.
Yeah.
Funny that because they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be quasi disposable because if you use a toothbrush for too long, you get a bunch of buildup on there. The bristles wear out. It's not good. You're supposed to change your toothbrush a lot more often than most people do.
Yeah. No, you're
Yeah.
100% right. I found this company. I didn't order it. I didn't order it yet, but I have it saved. They've been selling roots. They just sell the root. And you just bite down on the root, you brush, and then it on its own will continue to wear down until you're done, and then you get a new one. Like you can clip it and go for your next brush. I just yeah, I didn't know if I was ready to get that primal with it yet, but I definitely want to
I
try
do
it.
I do want to try the wood toothbrush, and if I could find that toothpaste again, like I would be so happy because it was truly amazing. And as someone with sensitive teeth, I can tell you when you find a product that actually helps that, it's like, oh my God.
Night and day, night and
It's yeah.
day.
And the thing is, it didn't take very long. I would say after, well, I felt the difference, but I chalked that up to just the novelty of it. But I noticed a pretty
Yeah.
consistent difference after maybe like a day or two. It did not take long, and
Yeah,
I
no,
absolutely loved it.
100%. I feel you. I also struggle with the sensitivity when I started using the mineral stuff. It definitely helps so much. And even mineral remineralizing tooth powder. It's actually made from like,
Oh, okay. I want to try that. I've seen that.
yeah, so it's very gritty and
Hmm.
crusty, like very, very gritty, but it really does work.
Oh,
Really,
I
really, really
believe it.
works. You
I
can
believe it.
literally see, even if you search remineralizing toothpaste on Amazon, go into the reviews and look at people's before and afters of how awful their teeth were literally almost rotting away. And they've been built back up because of the remineralizing toothpaste and the powder. I mean, it is just crazy. The only thing that I struggled with it is so good and so powerful. You almost do feel the remineralizing like taking place and happening, and you feel that like layer growing on your
Hmm.
teeth. But it works. It does work, and it does help the sensitivity more than anything.
Oh, that's yeah. Okay, so definitely going to try that now. Shifting gears a bit because you talked about, ironically, good products that we can't get in the U.S., but there's a ton of horrible products that we can only get in the US because the rest of the world has banned them. Now that Donald Trump and his administration have won the election, and he's not confirmed yet, but RFK has been nominated to be the head of the see, I'm blanking on it, Health and Human Services,
Yes, yes.
HHS. I'll be perfectly blunt. That's why I voted for Trump. That clinched it
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
That's the reason. When RFK joined up and I was in, he said that he's going to be part of my administration and be in charge of a lot of this stuff. I was like, okay, I'm in, because I was going to vote for RFK when he was running.
Yeah. Then he did put out a video saying, guys, please don't vote for me. If you
Yeah.
really want me in office, you need to vote for him because that will guarantee me a spot.
Well, and what's interesting though is when that happened, when he dropped out, I was a little disappointed, but I realized very quickly when he started, getting attached to the Trump campaign, I was like, oh, this is how he's going to do it. This is how he's going to get in that position. And I'm thrilled. I hope he delivers half of what he wants to do. If he delivers half of what he wants to do, I'll be ecstatic.
If he delivers half, I'll have kids.
Fair, fair.
I
Um,
I tell everybody, if the other end of the political side was delivering the attack on big pharma, big agriculture, and all this stuff, I would have voted that way.
yeah, precisely. Yeah,
It's
I
not
couldn't
about
agree
the
more.
politics for me. It's just about ethics. It's not about the true politics and the sides that were created to divide. I'm just about us and thinking about the future that my kids are going to be in. And that's it. And so for those, even, I mean, it's funny. I posted a video, which was just me in the back of the video of another influencer, which she goes by Real Foodology on social media. She was talking about RFK's impact and accomplishments in the environmental aspect and what he's actually done. And the comments started getting very negative, and it started for 10 minutes going up. And then all of a sudden, it decided, whoever decided that it should not be eligible for the For You page. So
They decided.
yes.
Um,
So, but the comments are just like always just attacking him and the fact that he's had brain parasites and the fact that he can't speak. And what's crazy is so many people will come at him when the poor guy literally has a chronic neurological disorder that causes those spasms to happen. And they're over here just assuming that it's something else and just being bullies.
well, and even if it is something else, like, get a life.
Yeah, I mean, if you
It's
just hear what he has to say, that's enough. I'm telling you, something that's huge. I don't know if you've ever looked into this. So I talk about this a lot on my spirituality account because I talk very deeply about frequencies and healing, spiritual healing and healing journeys, quantum healing, quantum physics, and metaphysics. So frequencies are huge. And if you look at something called the Schumann resonance, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. So the Schumann resonance is actually the frequency of our earth as a collective. And it like the Schumann resonance spikes based off of different areas in the world that get hit with lightning.
okay.
If you look at the Schumann resonance recordings for the night of the election, you would not believe what I mean, it changed in a way that if you look at the month as a whole, that's the only day where you can see such a huge visible difference. And I was telling my family that as soon as we heard who had won that popular vote, I felt a wave shoot over my body as if we just entered a new timeline. Like we have
No, we did.
shifted a timeline.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly because we were actually doing live coverage of that. And once it literally because the way the electoral map was set up at that time, if Trump took Pennsylvania at that time, there was no
We
mathematical
knew.
way
Yeah,
that, well, there was no mathematical possibility unless Kamala Harris managed to take Alaska, which was never going to happen.
exactly. Yeah.
At that point, there was no mathematical possibility of her winning. And when they called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump, we all felt that. It was just like this wave of it felt like we were entering a new time period. Now, don't get me wrong, like I'm not one of those people that is like on the Trump bandwagon blindly. Like
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
he
no, for
does he
sure.
does and says things that I don't agree with. For example, I vehemently oppose his and this is the frustrating part because he hasn't really gone into his immigration policy in as much detail as I would like. But generally speaking, I disagree with a lot of what he says. Now, whether or not that's implemented remains to be seen. But what I do want to be implemented is RFK's approach. And I will say this much. They did a hell, if you think they did a smear campaign against Trump, look at what they tried to do to RFK and largely succeeded because I initially wrote him off as a crazy person because of what I was reading about him. And then I saw him on Joe Rogan's podcast and I listened to him talk for an
Mm-hmm.
hour. And the phrase that turned me into a fan of his instantly was, look, I'm not saying that we need to get rid of all vaccines. I'm just saying that we should look into this. We should do the studies. We should do the research and find out the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, so you think about it exactly the way I do. Because generally speaking, I'm a big fan of vaccination and inoculation. However, in the modern medical industrial complex, um, I'm skeptical of what they're putting
Yeah.
in everything.
I do think things have changed a lot as well. Like now, like in this current modern society, if I had a child tomorrow, I am telling you, I would not vaccinate my child. Why? I can see the change over time. I am fully vaccinated from childhood, but I do not have any issues. I'm not allergic to anything. I'm not on the spectrum. I don't have any issues, and we can see that too. And I don't know if your public schooling was this way or if you went to public school, but when
I
I
did,
was in
yeah.
public school, we had one peanut room, and that's where all the nut allergy kids were with everyone else in that class. And then I have a brother who was 7 years younger than me. And once he got to school, it became a peanut free school. And it was
Hmm.
like more and more and more and more of the allergies. And to the point where you couldn't even you have to be mindful of what you're putting in your kids' lunch at this point because there's
Yeah.
way too many that are airborne. But it was so different when we were growing up. It was not the same. And now it's just full blown. It's very, very, very unnatural. And, but again, I do believe once upon a time, it was a great, beautiful thing. And then over time, it's possibly been slightly weaponized. And that's why he is saying, look into it. They don't want you to look into it. They just want you to trust them, right?
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, and again, this is demonstrably true because I'm a history nut, and just like I mean, polio probably the biggest one. The fact that polio is essentially eradicated, um, and then smallpox in the first world just does not exist anymore. Still exists in the third world here and there, and that I'm not even going to chalk that up to a vaccination. A lot of people don't know this. It's a really fun fact. So, if you're into your American Revolution history, there was a smallpox outbreak at the Valley Forge encampment, and that's how they took care of it.
With the vaccine.
Inoculation. Well, in a very primitive form. So they took people that had existing pox, they broke the pus and used a needle to inject it into everyone, but it was a lesser. So I'm sorry, it was an already mostly healed pore. So the theory was you give them a weakened version of the virus that causes smallpox, and then their body defeats it. So it's real bare bones inoculation.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. They made it through the winter by doing that.
Yeah. And it's just crazy. I mean, even now, if you search up just RFK in general, I mean, to find an article, even on the first page, that is not attacking him is unreal. I found something that was very unique recently. The former CDC director, Dr. Robert Redfield, went on and talked on Fox News Radio,
Hmm.
and they interviewed him. And it's funny because the same thing that you said that RFK said on that podcast, he said literally verbatim exactly that too, because they tried questioning him about, what do you think of RFK and the vaccines? But what he said that was, would be eye opening to people is he said that when he was the CDC director, that he wanted to tackle obesity and he went and spoke about it, but that everyone was completely uninterested in addressing it. And that's all he said, which tells you enough.
Oh, they don't want to treat obesity because there's no money in treating it, because treating obesity is actually quite simple. Um, don't eat poison, exercise once in a while, and, you know, don't consume anything too much in excess. There's no
Yeah.
pill. Well, and now, oh, well, that's going to go out the window unless they can do something governmentally, because now with the, I'm not going to say the invention because it's been around for a while, but sort of the mass market availability of drugs like Ozempic
Yeah.
are now,
Yeah.
it's done. And it's just so frustrating to see this, because I know people that are taking Ozempic and they're like, isn't this great? And I'm like, yeah, but all this drug is doing is making you not want to eat as much. You do realize that, right? Like that's essentially all it's doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you could have done that for free.
Oh, yeah. And
You
also,
know?
like, I always tell people this is just how I feel. And I did a very satirical skit on this on my TikTok and Instagram, but on TikTok it got suppressed. But basically it was showing like the cycle of what happens to us as Americans is we have this issue and or chronic illness, and then we go to the doctor and and we find out whatever's wrong, and then they give us a bunch of stuff. But why? Where's the actual root of it? It comes from full circle. That's what people they want to say, oh, well, uh RFK is just a skeptic. He's crazy that he doesn't trust big farm and big agriculture, and that he believes they're not in it for the greed. Like, do you hear yourself?
When did skepticism become a dirty word? I would like to know that. I would like to know when being called a skeptic became an insult instead of just someone who can think.
Critically think for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the enemy, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, same thing, like, now, same thing. Like, if you are a conspiracy theorist at all, you're like a psycho.
Well, but what's insane though is it wasn't that long ago when the conspiracy theorists were legitimately the crazy people, but because of the suppression of information, now like I keep mentioning Eric because we have such a great relationship because we're so different, but we've been friends for so long. He's a big fan of Alex Jones. I am not,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
even I've had to concede a couple of times because uh, Alex Jones was talking about Epstein Island like 8 years ago. And my friend's always saying, he's like, yeah, there's this island, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, come on. If
You're
there's an
crazy.
island, I was like, if there is an island, like, come on. And then there's a fucking island. Oh my God.
And then you're like,
Like,
don't say I told you so.
oh, he rubbed my face in it good. But then Alex Jones saved me by saying the things he did about Sandy Hook. And then I was like, see, it's not always right, you know, but
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like it's the wildest thing because now the conspiracy theorists, the not super duper out there ones, but the people that are like, yeah, maybe this is a. I'm constantly finding myself being like, well, maybe there's something to it.
Right. I know everything I hear now, even if it sounds super outlandish, I'm like I'm doing my own research because at the end of the day, there's always been some kind of freaking truth in there.
Well, my guiding principle nowadays is kind of just like, particularly if there's a more left leaning powering, but anyone in government, it's pretty well true. is
Yeah.
whenever they openly respond to it and say that's crazy, I'm like, oh, so
Then
it's
it's
true.
true. Yeah. Yes.
If
Yes.
they're
No.
if they just ignore it and just kind of go like, yeah, okay, we've got a depth ray up there, totally, yeah. I'm like, okay, that's probably not true, but they're like, we absolutely do not have a death ray orbiting the planet Earth
Yeah.
that we can pinpoint anywhere. And I'm like, oh, you totally have a death ray that you can pinpoint
Right.
anywhere on planet Earth.
Right. Right. Like that's why anytime I put a video up and I see suppression, I'm like, I just smile and I'm like,
You're right.
okay,
You're right.
I'm right. I'm saying something true, you know? I mean, even on my live one time, I don't know if you were there, but I was on my live and it was like, if you don't end this live, you're gonna get permanently banned. Like I got a notice and I was having conversation with people. And it was just like I just want to have these conversations. If you're really that doing that, you're just proving all of us right. You're giving us more
Well,
ammo to
yeah.
say, hey, we are right because we are being suppressed.
Oh yeah, every time we have a video removed from TikTok, I always post it elsewhere and given the justification. Like one time, I'm not even joking. We were actually even we were making fun of Andrew Tate in the video, but just because we said his name, just because
Really?
yeah, the video got removed and we appealed it. And I even said, I'm like, we just say his name and we're actually criticizing something he said in this video
Wow.
just because we said his name.
Wow. Dang. Yeah, that's why I've been getting annoyed with TikTok lately and posting more on my spirituality account because that content does not get removed ever. Even when I talk anything about, because when I'm talking anything about quantum physics and metaphysics, it's stuff like we've studied. So I never
Yeah.
have any issues with it. But when it comes to anything, big pharma, big food, holistic health, it is just knocked down so
And
severely.
and yet there are channels that are monetized that go live and literally show an entire movie,
Yeah,
somehow and yet somehow they don't get banned or taken down or I'm
right.
just I'm it's like because TikTok doesn't care about copyright law, but heaven forbid you say that you should eat a root instead of take a pill.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God, that is
Okay,
some.
you want to talk conspiracy theory? So me and my husband actually talked about this, and this was actually his theory, and then I was like, that kind of makes sense. Okay, so here's a theory. Here's a theory because TikTok wasn't this bad. It was not. And the theory is this that when the US wanted to ban TikTok all those multiple times, that TikTok made a deal with the US. And the US said, hey, TikTok, we won't ban you as long as you start really taking control of the content that's being put out. We want you to make sure that you're suppressing now anything that is regarding the truth behind things, conspiracy or anything that's to do with pharmaceuticals or drugs or medicine. And that was the deal that was made. And that's why we still have TikTok today, because now they're helping those greedy people in the US. That's the
Well, and
theory.
I can actually prove that because I don't know if you've noticed, but TikTok USA added a STEM section, which I
Really?
actually am in favor of. Yeah, there's like following live and then recommended, and then now to the far left there's a STEM section, which
Oh,
I'll be honest, I like it. So I absolutely believe that they made a deal with the U.S. government. Um, Absolutely. Like I said, I am a fan of adding the STEM section because
yeah.
TikTok has a lot of really informative and good content. And that's so sad though to see the censorship though, because during the height of COVID, TikTok was the only place I was getting dissenting information. Like
Right.
literally
That's what
that
I'm
was
saying. It
where
was not suppressed before.
no, that was the place where I saw the video of in Brazil where they were forcing people to get vaccinated. Like I saw the
Yeah.
video of the man on the rooftop and the police were literally dragging him down and they gave him an injection. And I'm like, whoa, no one else is reporting about this. And I was
Yeah.
seeing a lot some of the uh ground like some of the I would see the footage there first of like rocket attacks going into Israel and just stuff all over the world. That was the place I would see it first. And
Yeah,
now,
and the place I get most of my stuff is from Instagram because they do have toggles where but people don't know that these toggles by default are censored. Like the censorship is turned on. If you go in your
Mhm.
settings, you can choose to not censor. So I have all of that off so that I can see the full extent of things. So I do like Instagram. I've never had much issue with Instagram suppressing my stuff ever.
I'm gonna think of it. I don't think I've ever actually had a post taken down on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah, no, I've never had issues with Instagram. That's why, and also like most of the holistic wellness community does do most of their business on Instagram because of that as well. It just works so much better. But in terms of, I know we like totally like pathwayed off of the whole like RFK stuff and the food. Um, Something that a lot of people don't realize is how new all of this junk is.
Hmm.
People don't realize how new it is. Just like when cigarettes first came out and they were recommending you to have cigarettes all the time, and then come to find out, whatever, many years later.
Well, but even there's even a difference there though, because pure tobacco, while it's not great for you, is not nearly as bad for you as the modern day cigarette is, because
Oh, yeah.
it's not just
Yeah.
dried tobacco
Like a
leaves
natural
anymore.
tobacco leaf is fine. A natural
Yeah.
tobacco leaf. Even when I went to Mexico, like they were for like the natural
Well,
leaf.
this will blow your mind. So the cocoa leaves that they used that they processed and turned into cocaine, that was only discovered because the locals in the area where those were growing is they would take the leaves and basically like you would with chewing tobacco, they'd stick them in there and it would, you know, make them feel
Get
good, give
them.
them some extra energy. Um, but the thing is, like modern day cocaine is just super refined so that it brings it down to its super potency. And because there's more of it concentrated, right? But
Yeah.
that all started from a naturally occurring plant that the locals were just like, ah, feel good leaf.
Literally ruin everything. It makes me so
They
mad. They
ruin
literally
everything.
even when I went to natural health school, like 2 months of study was just about the history of holistic and allopathic and how, holistic was the way. And then they saw the money in it, and Rockefeller and the Flexner reports and all that crap, and totally just demolished the holistic end of things, called chiropractors quacks. And when it comes to like, I always get this question like, oh, is there really that much of a difference eating organic and non-GMO? Yes. Non-GMO was introduced in 1960. That's not even 100 years. That's not even 100 years. We've been genetically modifying foods since 1960. And guess what else? 1970 is when we came out with all of these artificial sweeteners. And very much this year, we've had a lot of articles come out showing the very negative effects of xylitol and all these artificial sweeteners. Um, and that's what I always tell people. I'm like, hey, this is pretty freaking new. But if you go more towards this way, we have Ayurvedic medicine and herbal medicines and Bach flower therapies, all of this stuff. I mean, we could trace this back to the point where we can't even trace it anymore. You know what I mean? Like it stems far. And it's just insane to me. It was super eye-opening to me when I was learning about the history. I was like, I didn't even realize how new the takeover was.
Yeah. Well, and something that I like to do because it started because I'm really bad at math, but um, I like to break things down to a very, very simple sort of essential truth. And I might get the numbers off slightly, but I think I'm remembering this correctly. This is verifiable, but you'll get the gist of it. Is I looked up because believe it or not, many, many years ago, I had a rare for me bout of insomnia. I just could not sleep. So turned on C-SPAN thinking that it would put me to sleep. I watched a 3.5 hour documentary about the proliferation of sugar into the American diet,
Are
and
you serious?
I was horrified. And it's a C-SPAN documentary, so it's super. It's basically a 3.5 hour PowerPoint presentation, but I was just appalled. I mean, and it talks. Well, I shouldn't even say that. It's not sugar; it's high fructose corn syrup. About how and
Refined,
why. Yeah,
refined
yeah,
sugars.
yes. They went through the whole history about how they went from using like pure cane sugar, and the food markets did this, and then finally we end up with the awful, awful thing of high fructose corn syrup. I think if RFK could ban high fructose corn syrup in this country, I think you'd see a 50% reduction in obesity within 2 years.
Oh
Probably
yeah.
less than that, probably less than that. But anyway, the
Yeah.
point of it, did you know the average weight of an adult male in his 30s in 1955 was 150 pounds?
Wow. Wow. And now, definitely not.
And that shift in the market as far as like large scale production happened it was in the 80s. I can't remember if it was, I think it was 1982 or 1984. It's probably 1984 because everything really bad happened in 1984 because God has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Stevie Wicks is setting out to give you the greatest candle you've ever smelled, and they're specializing in hand-poured, all-natural soy wax candles. Many, many varieties, very many scents. These things are so good, and each Stevie Wicks candle comes with a scent-boosting tart right in the center, so you get a boost of scent as soon as you start burning your candle. What's really unique about Stevie Wicks, though, is not only can you get individual candles from them, but you can also sign up for their monthly subscription box. Once you subscribe, you'll receive a box every month full of candles and candle-related items, such as their 3-wick candle, single-wick candles, soy wax tarts, and also with every box you'll get a free gift. This could be anything from another candle-related item, semi-precious stone jewelry, could be any number of things, including exclusive candles not available anywhere else. And if you are a Stevie Wicks subscriber, every month where there is a major holiday, you will get holiday-themed candles, such as this Valentine's Day candle that you see here. So if you want to get the best candles you've ever had today, go on to steviewicks.com and place your order there, or sign up for your monthly subscription box. And as a special deal for Arete viewers, use promo code Arete at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order. Or if you'd like to sign up for a monthly subscription box, use promo code Arete20 and you'll get 20% off your first month's box.
It's so ridiculous. And even, yeah, sugar was replaced with high fructose corn syrup in 1977. I mean, this is early. This is not so long ago.
Well, but here's the
And
interesting thing. So my biggest vice over the years has been I got a really bad Coca-Cola problem. However, everywhere else in the world uses actual cane sugar, except for the United States and Canada, I believe. Even in Mexico. In Mexico, if you buy a Coca-Cola that was bottled in Mexico, they use real cane sugar.
yep, yep, it tastes very different. Even we have a lot of Middle Eastern markets around here,
Hmm.
and they import a lot of Coca-Cola in the glass bottles. It's like the
Yep.
only place my parents like getting their Coke because it
Oh, if
tastes
you're a
like back
Coke
home.
fan, yeah, if you're a Coke fan, there's a world of difference, but not just the taste, even how it feels, which
Hmm.
sounds really silly, but if you've had an international Coke with cane sugar versus the stuff that's bottled domestically, you know what I'm talking about. It even
Yeah,
has a different feel and somewhat of a different texture.
it
And
does. It
the
does.
funniest thing is a couple of years ago I got to go to, I call it real Mexico, not a tourist trap. I went to an actual, like, I went down to Morelia down in Michoacan, and I was there for about 10 days, and everybody warned me. They were like, oh, and like, even because I went with a family that was from there, and and they even told me, they were like, hey, you might feel a little sick the first couple of days because you're just going to get used to the food. Now, when I tell you that not only did I not get sick, that I felt amazing, and
Really?
I ate so much food, and not what you would consider like stereotypically healthy food. I mean, it was a lot of meat, bread, and potatoes. It was a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that's,
Whole foods, just whole foods,
but that's just it.
right?
When I got back to the States, I got sick for 2 weeks.
No way.
I'm not even joking.
Wow.
sick as a dog for 2 weeks. And I mean, I felt great when I was in Mexico. I was sleeping well. I had energy, which too, I mean, I was on vacation, so that has a bit of a factor. But I mean, I was eating food that I didn't normally eat. Like, I'm not a big fan of chorizo, but down there, chorizo is way different.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it here at all.
Oh, down there, it's way different. But this is stuff I was even like, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't eat this much because I don't want to get sick, but I didn't. I felt amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah. I see now I want to go back to Mexico and try the chorizo.
I think it depends on where you go in Mexico, but generally speaking, I think the further south you go, probably the better off you are.
Yeah, when I went, I was in Sayulita, which is more in the country.
Hmm.
So it was definitely very different than when I've gone with my family. This
Oh
was
yeah, it's
entirely
way different.
different.
I went when I was down there. I went to a literal ranch that was in the mountains, and like one of the houses we went to was so far out they didn't even have indoor plumbing.
Oh,
They were showing off their outhouse that they had just built. And when I say outhouse, I mean that conjures up like the little outhouse from here. No, they built like a stone spa looking thing out of stone and concrete,
interesting.
and they were showing it off. And I was like, they were very proud of this, and they should have been because it was quite something to see. But the other thing I say, and I'm so glad I was able to go on that trip because I saw actual poverty, like real poor. I mean, poor to the extent that where their kids get one pair of flip flops every couple of years.
Yeah,
And they tend to not wear them because they want them to last. So
yeah,
there's a lot of kids running around barefoot. There's a lot of, much older clothes. Hand-me-downs are a way of life. But the
yeah.
weird thing is everybody was smiling,
Right.
you know?
Yes, yes, 100%. Yes. Like, and then everyone, when American tourists see that, they're always like, "Oh my God, I could
Well,
never live like that."
American tourists generally don't see that level of
No.
poverty.
I only saw one time we I was on a cruise and one of our ports was in Porta Costa Maya and there was really nothing to do at the port. So we
Oh,
had
that's
a
odd.
it was not don't recommend. They took us into the city and even the ocean, it was you can even swim in it at all.
Mm,
It was and we didn't know obviously, but as we're going through the city and we park, I'm just seeing these little kids barefoot and walking up to all of us and asking us to buy a bag of chips for 50 cents.
yeah.
And I'm seeing the streets and I see them sitting and running around and all of that. That was the first time I saw that. And that's actually like the main picture now my family has of Mexico, but it is, like you said, different in different areas. When I went to Sayulita, I mean, we walked in the streets and I felt good. I felt good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I did not feel unsafe. I did not
Yeah,
feel
it just
any kind
depends.
of
It just
way.
depends where you go because again, like the vast majority of the time we stayed in the city of Morelia, which is it's a really nice city.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Yeah.
common sense stuff like you shouldn't walk alone by yourself at night in any city.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
recommend.
100%.
But like during the day, yeah, absolutely nothing. And
Yeah.
I was the only white guy for like 100 miles, so I stuck out like a sore thumb, which I also recommend every American experience because most Americans, unfortunately, never experience being the fish out of water.
Mm-hmm.
It's real humbling. So for anyone who says like, "Oh, if you come to America, you better speak English," it's like go to rural Mexico
Right.
and
You go be that person.
yeah, go be that person. You have a little bit more respect, which
Yeah.
fortunately my Spanish at that time was okay. I could probably go now and be totally fine. because
Yeah.
I've worked really hard on my Spanish. But yeah, you get that perspective of being the other, and
Yeah.
it's very important, I think, for people to do that.
And on that note, too, there is also a huge assumption because at the end of the day, most people, the majority of people, are going to take what they see and hear and believe it, make it their own, and regurgitate it. So I will say one thing that my family has ran into here is the assumption that, obviously we look foreign. My dad looks very foreign. And it's this assumption that, oh, like you're an illegal immigrant. When little do they know, both of my parents are American citizens and had to take a test that you probably couldn't even pass, which I will tell you, I could not pass that test because I've seen my grandma became an American citizen too, and I'm so proud of her because she barely speaks English and she studied so hard, but I helped her study and I'm like, I don't even know the answers to these questions at all. They're about America and history. I really did not know the answers. I was like a teenager, and but that is a huge assumption. And um I don't want to speak too much on this, I guess, but I'm sure it will. I mean, these people will never even see this, but we have had issues with neighboring people and being very aggressive, showing that we are not welcome. And it is absolutely disgusting, is frustrating. And I mean, we just go about, we continue doing what we're doing. I always tell my parents, just stay out of it because people are crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
we've,
it's not worth it.
yeah, we've had a
Um,
man literally put a sign up for us to see that said, um, I will not call 911. I will shoot you. And like faced it towards us. And it's absolutely ridiculous the things that people do just because they see that you're foreign. I mean, we've had it happen in airports too. Like my dad's very dark, very, very
mhm.
dark. My husband's very, very dark. I mean, even when we were entering back into the US from our honeymoon, we were grilled on questions that didn't even matter. We were grilled
Yeah.
on they were asking us, oh, and mind you, we have a American passport.
Yeah,
Like
you have US
we,
passports.
we were born here. And it's like, because I think that the woman was trying to figure out what ethnicity we were. So she kept asking, like, oh, where are your parents from? And we said Iraq. And then she's like, oh, do they live here now? Yes. Okay. Well, when did they come to America? And I'm like, these aren't, I know for a fact, these are not questions that need to be asked for us to re-enter back into the country.
Right, when you have a US passport. This might make you feel a little bit better. When I was coming back from, it was a different trip to Mexico from Cozumel. I was the only one that was randomly searched at the airport in Mexico. So
Really? Well, you said you were with a like
not that time. Not at that
oh,
time.
okay, okay. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, like I'll be straight up, you look like a white guy, like, basic.
No offense taken.
Yeah, so it's just funny. People are funny. So definitely experiencing that, it will humble
People are
you.
odd. Yeah, people are strange. Before we go, because I know that you've got things to do, which we didn't even get into your background. But that can be in part two. That can be a different thing. But the one thing I would like to leave people with is, in your opinion, as a holistic, you know, and health coach, what do you think the biggest risk factors for Americans and their health are today?
Yeah. So the biggest risk factors. So would you say like what to pay attention to with yourself? Like or would you say habits that people are doing?
I would say, I think I should have rephrased that. What are the biggest things that people should be on the lookout for in terms of like what should people not be doing with their
Yeah,
bodies?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, super easy. Super easy. I'll give you three things. If you want your life to change, three things you can implement very quickly. no refined sugar, stay away from seed oils, stay away from ultra processed food. Those three things will literally change your life and affect your health so heavily. And then to take it a step further, annual cleansing of your body. Super, super, super important. I mean, when you can look at other countries. Most other countries do cleanse annually. It's just in America that that's more of the uncommon thing to do. You know, other countries, they constantly do the detoxing and cleansing. And so yeah, those three things change your life, and you will more than likely lose weight if you feel like you have not been able to lose weight. As it once you stay away from those things, your body starts burning fat instead of storing it because of the sugar, refined sugar. So, yeah, highly, highly recommend. Even during my whole body cleanse, that's what I have people do for the first couple weeks and let you get a little taste for that difference. And a lot of people say, well, it's hard, like that's not convenient. But I'll ask you this. At the end of the day, are you going to choose convenience or are you going to choose your health? And don't be the one to wait until illness hits you to start caring about your health, because by then you will have so much regret, and it's not a good feeling. And a lot of people don't realize how much your health actually means to you until you lose a piece of it. I know for me, when I have had so many issues with my knee, and I haven't talked about this on my social media yet, but I've had surgeries and I have less than 10% cartilage left in my left knee. I have the knee of almost over 80-year-old woman now, and it's very frustrating. Once you get a taste of that independence loss, you will wake up, and you do not want to wait until then. So I'm telling you, your parents told you you wouldn't want to grow up so fast, and you know that they were right once you got older. So trust me when I say that.
Yeah, stuff started by about 35, stuff starts to hurt that shouldn't hurt, and you don't know why it hurts. Can you do me a favor real quick though? Can you
Yeah.
sort of more precisely define two terms? You said um refined sugar and super processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell people what that actually means?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I'll do even better. On my guide for my cleanse, I actually broke it down. I broke down the refined sugars because a lot of people don't really know what that means, you know? So I'm glad you
Yeah.
asked that.
I was gonna
People are
say
like,
I'm one of those people. I have a feeling,
right.
but
Oh, 100%. Because I mean, right, we hear it. We know that probably means bad sugar, but to what extent, I guess. So
exactly.
when we're avoiding the sugars here, I've got the first couple of pages showing like symptoms of parasites, second page showing symptoms of heavy metals and symptoms of mold toxicity. And people don't even realize, like, I could show this to anybody. I guarantee you could find at least 10 things where you're like, yeah, I experience that almost daily. Um, but yeah, so when it comes to the sugars, so sugars to stay away from: white granulated sugar, brown sugar, high fructose corn syrup, normal corn syrup, cane sugar, evaporated cane juice, confectioner sugar, which is powdered sugar.
Hmm.
And then we have malt syrup, dextrose, sucrose, glucose syrup, fructose, and maltose. Stay away from those. Now, not only will I tell you that, I will tell you what is your better alternative here.
Okay, that was
So,
my next question. I was like, so what sugar can I have?
yes. So, honey, preferably raw honey,
Okay.
maple syrup, pure and not processed with additives, coconut sugar, and date sugar. And you want that to be ground from the whole dates because there's different kinds. Molasses, you want to make sure that is unsulfured because that's the least processed. And then we have monk fruit sweetener, pure without additives. A lot of monk fruit sweetener, if you look at the ingredients, it actually has xylitol in it or erythritol, which is not good. And again, has now been proven to cause um, I believe, blood clots, and raw agave nectar, the less processed version. You can go with that. Yakan syrup and palm sugar. Coconut palm sugar is pretty popular as an alternative. You can even get coconut palm sugar at Target. There's actually a
See,
Target brand.
these are products that I didn't even know existed. Because
Yeah.
I was like, wow, so there's like one sugar I can have, and you gave a longer list of things that I can have as opposed to what I need to stay away from, which is
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Because honestly, I get frustrated sometimes when I see other people's videos because they're like, don't do this and don't do that. And then you wait for the end of the video because you're waiting for the alternative and they don't give you one. And I'm like, this is helpful, but you didn't really give me an alternative. And then also I'll do it for your oils as well, because it is not as clean cut as people think. So stay away from canola oil, soybean, corn, sunflower, safflower, cottonseed, grape, rice bran, sesame, and peanut oil. But alternatively, olive oil and avocado. But I will say I only try to use those cold. Avocado sometimes I will use over the stove, but on very low heat, because when you do heat up olive oil and avocado oil, and you can look into this as well, they can become more toxic. The levels change in them. Coconut oil, I use in baking so much, and for some specific things, I always use it with pancakes. Grass-fed butter, the Irish butter is great. Ghee and tallow. So definitely the
Oh,
best thing to cook in is tallow just for the heat. It has a very high smoke point. So
yeah. Uh, the fun fact, because I use Irish butter, and the reason I use Irish butter is because I was trying to get away from oils
yeah.
and for cooking, and I knew Country Crock was nonsense, but I grabbed another brand and I'm looking at the ingredients. I'm like, this isn't even butter, but it says butter on the box. And so I finally ended up, I forget the brand, but it's Irish butter. And
Yeah.
you even have to be careful with that because you have to find the kind that's just straight up butter.
You do. No, you're
And
100%
I
right.
was absolutely horrified. This is insane. This is insanity. So you mentioned a few times that you have a cleanse that people can participate in. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And then we are also going to have a link for that in the description of this podcast for you to take a look at if you're interested in checking it out.
So my cleanse is going to be the Unleashed Holistic Cleanse, a full body cleanse. I have taken everything that I have experienced from other parasite cleanses and other detoxes and pulled every piece that I felt worked and didn't work, and then also added the pieces that I felt were missing and created the Unleashed Holistic Cleanse. And so, what this cleanse will be targeting is all of the parasites that are invading your body, the heavy metals that are affecting you, the mold toxicity that you may or may not have without knowing. And this is huge because if you actually look at the symptoms of these things, it's very, very generic, like having sugar cravings, having insomnia at night, or having allergies constantly, or having mood swings, hormone imbalances. One of the biggest ones that actually affected me was anemia. And I will attest to this. I actually cured my anemia, my chronic anemia, by doing a whole body cleanse. And one of the causes of anemia leads back to parasites. So after I did the cleanse, that was one of my tests I wanted to do. I wanted to get my blood checked to see if I did, in fact, get rid of my anemia because I had tried everything, eating right. I mean, my mom even gets iron infusions. No matter what, that level always falls right back down. So now I know it was the parasites. And I will also be having a community. So while you are doing the cleanse, you do have the support. So all of the people who are also doing the cleanse, you can chat with, and also you will have access to me. When I did my cleanses, I had so many questions if I was doing something right or wrong because it is a regimen. One thing that will really make my cleanse stand apart is that I have a very huge preparatory period where you're preparing your organs for the cleanse, not just your diet. So we're going to be getting rid of some yucky things and also assisting our organs with some very beautiful homeopathic tinctures, and then getting into the cleanse. A lot of people do these cleanses and they get very sick because when these parasites are dying within you, they are actually releasing toxins when they die. And so we need to combat that and make sure that your organs are up to par so you feel like Superman instead of a dead man. So that's a huge part there. And also throughout all of it, you're also going to get a pretty extensive guide guiding you through the cleanse, telling you what you should do, the regimen and everything. And what I love about it too is it's huge education for you. You learn so much. And I've worked really freaking hard to get these good ingredients and create my beautiful binder, get these toxins out. A lot of cleanses don't come with binders. That's why when some people do parasite cleanses, they sometimes will see a couple parasites in the toilet and then not as much as I saw with a pretty extensive cleanse with a binder. And also, no, you don't have to worry about seeing live worms in your stool. They all come out dead.
I'm gonna
So,
say they get killed.
yeah, they all come out dead with my cleanse. So, it'll be huge. I am so excited to impact all of these amazing lives and just really spread this knowledge around and to show you how amazing that you can truly feel just by instilling these things, and also how much chronic illness you will heal by doing this.
Before we jump off here, just a real quick question: Are you familiar with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya?
I don't think so.
I feel like I've heard the name before, and I think it was during COVID. But anyway, Donald Trump just announced that he's nominated him as the director of the National Institute of Health. He will partner with RFK Jr. to direct the nation's medical research and return the United States to the gold standard. So hopefully that works out
Woo
well.
woo.
Where
Yeah, I'm
can
excited.
where can everyone find you on social media, Nat?
So you can find me at Unleashed Holistic and at Unleashed Spirituality. And I also post on YouTube as well, but that's more my guided meditations. And I also do repost my content on shorts there, but more of the spiritual content, the metaphysics, quantum physics, frequencies, real healing, beautiful things. So find me all of those places, and I am excited to continue my journey. And I hope that you guys invite me in on yours, whether it's your holistic journey or your deep healing journey. I am here.
Perfect. All those links will be in the description, by the way, to make it easy for everyone. Natally, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your time. I know we went a little bit over, but it was fun. It was a lot of
It
fun.
was fun. It was
I had a
great.
I had a blast, but
I'm glad.
I know you've got places to go, people to save.
Yes, yes, Superman, secretly told you. Yes, no, this was
Ready?
great. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm so glad you had found me. And I love speaking to different like minds and just having a critical thinking conversation and discussion with people and being open minded and being able to shoot stuff back and forth and not kill each other. It's fun.
Well, you've had a great conversation when you cover about half of what you wanted to. So we'll have to have you on again at some
Yes.
point. But
Yes.
for
Yeah.
now, for now, that is it. Everybody, let us know how much you want to see Natally back on the podcast in the comments section, and we will get her back when it's convenient for all. But again,
Yes.
Nat, thank you very much
Of
for coming
course.
on. I appreciate it. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed this episode. I know I did. I know this is one of the more fun interviews I've ever done. So I know I did. Hopefully, you guys like it, and we will see you next time on the Arete podcast.